In this episode of Fish Trigger TV, Alex will show you how he built his Najeela competitive commander deck.
Najeela the Blade Blossom, you might have seen some lists coming up of people who tried to build her as warrior tribal or whatever. Of course, this is not a really viable strategy in EDH, but I've tried to do something that kills a bit faster, and I'll show you how this works. First of all, the commander is not plan A of the deck. So, the actual win condition is Birthing Pod, which can fetch a creature for sacrificing another creature, and being in 5 colors, the trick is quite easy because we can start with any creature with a converted mana cost of 2, for example this one, and to kill from this position we only need 4 mana and 8 life to assemble the main combo of this deck. So the first search would be to remove the Bob and get Derevi, who untaps Birthing Pod upon entering the battlefield. Then sacrifice Derevi for Felidar Guardian, untap again, sacrifice Felidar Guardian, get a Karmic Guide, reanimate the Felidar Guardian, blink the pod, or we could also blink the Karmic Guide and reanimate Derevi to untap the pod. Then sacrifice this one again, get Kiki Chiki, copy the Karmic Guide, reanimate Felidar Guardian, blink Kiki Chiki, and then we have infinite cat tokens. So actually Najeela is not a warrior tribal now, but a cat tribal deck. So with these cards, not Bob, we can do something else as well, which is much more mana efficient, and that's Flash and Protean Hulk. It uses the same combo as a win con then, but it can be assembled with Karmic Guide on the first search and with Sierra Sia. Karmic Guide reanimates Hulk, then we sack it again, then we get Kiki Chiki and something else or nothing. Then we can already win from this position by copying the Karmic Guide, sacrificing Kiki Chiki while the trigger is on the stack. Then the token comes into play and reanimates Kiki Chiki, which then copies Karmic Guide again, and we kill with infinite Karmic Guide tokens with haste. We can do this at instant speed as well. For example, on an opponent's turn by flashing in Hulk. Then we get the same 2 cards to reanimate Hulk again, sack it. Then we don't take Kiki Chiki first, but Felidar Guardian and Blood Artist. Felidar Guardian blinks the Karmic Guide, reanimates Hulk, then we sacrifice it again, and then we get Kiki Chiki to produce the cat tokens, and Blood Artist causes life loss instead of damage from attacking with the creatures. So we can do this at instant speed or before the combat phase to attack with the tokens. Well,
visually this sounds very fast and consistent.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same speed as any other deck that's based on Flash and Hulk. It also has a quite high amount of tutors to get the combo pieces either in the graveyard with
Can you name
Buried
them,
Alive. So one huge trick we can pull off in this deck is to assemble the same combo with Buried Alive on these three creatures, and then just play a Reanimate on the Karmic Guide, and we have the same again. Karmic Guide comes into play, Failida Guardian blinks the Karmic Guide and reanimates Kiki Chiki, so we can assemble the same combo in three different ways without wasting any slots in the deck, because they all use the same pieces basically. And we also have one piece of the Birthing Pod sequence, the Revi, which is a backup combo with the commander, because whenever a creature deals damage to an opponent in combat, I can untap any permanent, which can be a mana dork or a land. So it takes very few creatures to start to make the untapping ability of Najeela work. And then we get another combat phase, and the warriors produce again warrior tokens, and we can untap even more permanents. So it's quite and a simple backup win condition, and a very efficient one, because it also bypasses any graveyard hate, for example, or other stuff that would stop the Birthing Pod or the Hulk lines. Bloom Tender is also quite helpful, because it usually taps when we have Najeela. It at least taps for green, red, and the warrior tokens are white, so we have at least 3 colors on Bloom Tender. And once we have used the untap ability once, we can use mana dorks that already have attacked to activate the ability again, and then the untap again, and we can use it again and stack these abilities before moving to the first additional combat phase. So it's quite easy to pull that off. Another backup win con is Druid's Repository, which gets a charge counter whenever a creature attacks. So when we can attack with 5 creatures, it's already enough to activate Najeela, and that's also a sort of useful card to play around Blood Moons or Back to Basics, which is useful in a 5-color deck. Yeah, so I will try to pull one of these tricks off with Najeela. There are of course more hidden in the deck. For example, we have a backup with Razorcat, for example. This enables some interesting lines with Lion's Eye Diamond and Eternal Witness to assemble the Flash and Hulk combo, or whatever I want to use to win them.
So, one question from my side. Is there any weakness in this deck, and what are the 5 most hate pieces on board which can rather stop you from winning with those combos?
Well, the obvious weakness is the mana base in 5 colors, so anything that nerfs non-basic lands is
So like back
a
to
problem.
basics,
Yeah, back to basics or Blood Moon.
Mothers of the Moon.
Yeah, so that's
Ruination.
ruination. That can also be a problem. The
But
biggest problem in the birthing pod line is a torpor orb. I can't play around the torpor orb. That's not possible at all.
so do you have any interaction against this hit
Yeah, I
pieces?
have, and of course a curse totem is a problem. But with Flesh and Hulk, I can play around a curse totem, but I can't play around a torpor orb. So that's the most problematic piece here. So I have, for example, Meltdown for artifact destruction, Manglehorn, Nature's Claim, also some cheap counter spells that I can also fetch with Razorcat to protect the combo. I've got a Gilded Drake to steal some creature that is problematic when it's on an opponent's side. Aven Mind Sensor, some proactive stacks piece on my side. Fire Covenant to remove creatures. And Noxious Revival for graveyard interaction on the opponent's side or to get back something
What
that
about
I've lost.
Graveyard Hate? Do you like Rest in Peace or the Black Leyline?
Well,
Do you have anything against enchantments on board?
I have Nature's Claim, basically, or I can counter something, or there's Leonine Relic Warder. Yeah, that can also remove enchantments. But I think if a Rest in Peace or Black Leyline is on board, I would not try to force a Birthing Pod or Hulk line, but rather use the backup combo of the commander, because that doesn't use the graveyard, you don't need to search your library, and it isn't affected by Torpor Orb. It's affected by Cursed Totem, that's true, but there's a Hulk line that enables playing around Cursed Totem, for example, and that would be to get D3 with Hulk, remove the Cursed Totem with Leonine Relic Warder, get the Reanimate with Spellseeker, reanimate the Hulk, and then continue the lines as described before. So that's a way to play around that. And if an opponent has a Linvala, Keeper of Silence, for example, I could replace the Relic Warder with the Gilded Drake and take control of the opponent's Linvala. Spellseeker can also get Flash on my hand, or a reanimation spell, or removal, for example.
If you liked this episode of Fish Trigger TV, please consider subscribing and maybe follow our channel over at Twitch.